right, continuing
I was
our
9.
conversation. Okay, so you're
We
9,
lived in an area called Del Rey,
right?
and I remember I was 10 years old when I got my menstrual period. And I remember the teacher gave me a jacket to go home because I stained my dress. She let me go home with her jacket.
And Grandma,
Grandma wasn't a typical. It wasn't a typical conversation. She threw me a rag and said, "God help you now." I remember all these things because she knew that you could become pregnant, once you got your period.
uh-huh. But you were 10 years old.
I was 10 years old.
Well, that's pretty early for a girl, to get their
They do it in
menstrual period.
Afghanistan and Pakistan.
At 10 years old?
Yeah.
So, did you have any particular family traditions that you guys, like you said, you used to take drives, right?
Yes. On Saturday, we would take a drive. But this was New York, I remember. In New York, we would go to a Chinese restaurant, and it was 75 cents for a meal. Remember that? And there was a man, that Chinese man gave me a parasol. I remember the parasol. It's green.
Now, who was living in New York of your aunts and uncles then? Were any?
Well, in New York, on my grandmother, on my dad's side, my aunt Louise, my Uncle Lou. The reason we came to, my Uncle Herman, the reason we came to Washington or to Virginia was because my Uncle Bill got a job at the Pentagon. My father looked up to Bill, really looked up to him. There was a big difference in age. There was a 20-year age difference between his sister and my dad.
Wow. Bill wasn't the oldest, though. It was.
No, Louise. My Aunt
Louise,
was the
okay.
oldest.
And she never got married, or
Never
did
got
she?
married.
Was he close with her?
No.
Well, 20 years age difference, that's a big difference. She could have been his mom.
As they got older, I don't know whether she was anti-Semitic. My Aunt Louise.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that, but
Yeah.
she was Jewish.
Yeah, she was, but I don't think she was a happy Jew.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't celebrate. Don't forget, her family, her parents were from Germany. And at that time, that's what you were first, German first. But I should say that because here in America, I'm an American first. I'm Jewish, but I am an American. And I remember.
Yeah, but that's different. You're American, your religion is Jewish. It doesn't have anything to do with your country affiliation. You could be American Catholic or American Hindu, American whatever.
Well,
you're saying, though, that now, your father's mother was here, and what about your dad's father? Did he come to the U.S. or?
My father's parents came to this country.
They did come, okay.
They lived in Woodlawn, New York.
Okay. Do you remember doing anything with them?
Yeah, my grandmother, my father's mother, was very little.
Mm-hmm.
And on Saturday, she used to come to visit all the children,
Mm-hmm.
all the grandchildren. My father was like that, and I think I'm like that, and I think you're like that. But I had more interaction with my mother's side. I don't know why.
Now, who on your mom's side were living in the New York area at that time? Anyone?
Well, Aunt Beb was probably in Kansas City. Aunt Ethel was in Minneapolis. And Uncle Bill was in Texas.
Already he went. So he went to Texas really early.
What?
He went to Texas fairly early. If you're saying he was in Texas when you were a child,
Yeah.
so what brought him to Texas back then?
I don't know.
What about Aunt Edith? Was she still in New York?
She, after she got married to my Uncle Harry, she lived in Houston, Texas.
Okay,
That's where she got the name Houston,
right.
because the real name was Goldstein. Uncle Harry's name was Harry Goldstein.
Right.
And then my Aunt Anne lived in California. It was because of Anne that they moved out to California. All the family. Aunt Edith did, Aunt Ethel. Yeah.
So you didn't really see them. What about when you moved down to Virginia in the DC area? Did you ever see any of them? Did they ever come in?
Not really.
So you really became close with Aunt Edith when you were an adult.
No, as a child, Aunt Edith was very good to me. They were living in Connecticut, and she had me come up in the summer for a week to get away from the city. Edith was very good to me. She always said that she helped to raise me, because she was like 10 or 11 years old when I was born, and she played, I was like a little doll. So she always had a very special feeling for me, as I did with her. Didn't have that feeling with Beb. And Ethel, I really didn't have that feeling.
Well, she lived in Minneapolis, you said.
But I did have that feeling with my Aunt Rose.
Where was Aunt Rose living then? Was she still in New York?
Well, they were in New York, but they were in New York. I remember I would visit my grandmother. I remember going into the apartment. I can really visualize it. And my grandmother always had a hot water bottle on her stomach. Always.
Maybe she had irritable bowel syndrome
She
too.
probably did. She probably did. The children were very good to her. She didn't work. They all children contributed to her. That's how she survived. And she lived with Aunt Rose.
So how long did you live in Virginia when you got down here?
I lived in Virginia until we moved to,
Anacostia, right?
yeah,
How old were you when you moved into Anacostia? Junior high or high school?
oh, not high school, junior high. One of the schools I went to was called Kyle. That was in the Delray area.
And how old were you when you met your friend Barbara Dubberly?
High school. Barbara's mother was handicapped. I remember she always wanted to get home to her mother, because her mother would be waiting out, looking out the window for Barbara to come home. There was a big age difference between Barbara and her sister. And her sister was married and out. But I met Barbara in high school.
And what high school was that? Was that called Anacostia High?
I went to Kramer Junior High, and I went to Anacostia High School.
And what kind of crowd of people did you hang out with? Were you with the chic,
I hung
cool
out with
people?
Barbara.
Or were you with the nerdy people? Or with the intellectual people?
I hung out with Barbara because when I was 15, I started to work after school. So I didn't have a lot of time to hang out.
Weren't you involved with the school newspaper, though?
Mm-hmm. Barbara was the editor, I was the assistant
Oh,
editor.
okay, all right. And then
And I was in the Girl Cadets in school. I was in the Leaders Club in school.
you were into archery, you said,
I
right?
did archery. That was for gym.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever shoot anybody?
As many as I could.
And when your first job, where was that? When you said you were 15, you
New
started?
York Jewelers.
They hired people that were 15. Wow. That's where you met Tonna
That's where I
Claire.
met Tonna Claire. I met Dorothy Levin, Dorothy Schulman at the time. Another, can't remember her name now.
Is that where you got exposed to the Jewish community? Because you said there weren't really any in Anacostia.
There were 5 Jewish kids in Anacostia in the whole school.
But you said you would come over to the JCC, which was on
Sunday
16th Street, so you had to take a trolley, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you met Aunt Viv?
Probably met Aunt Viv through Tante Claire. I met Aunt Viv. I guess Aunt Viv was a very good dancer. So she used to like to go to the Jewish Community Center and dance. So was Dottie Leventhal a good dancer. They were great. They were really good dancers.
So how long would it take you to get from Anacostia over to the JCC?
A long time, about an hour. Had to take a trolley car.
Did you have a curfew?
To it.
Did you have a curfew?
Probably. My mother wasn't. My mother was sleeping.
Once she said, God help you, you were on your own. Huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My mother never waited up, but my father did. My father was waiting for me. If it was a date, he was waiting. Believe me, he was waiting. Not only for me, for Anne Fran too.
How old were you when you started to date?
To date?
Mm-hmm.
15 or 16.
And where did you meet most of your dates? From work, from JCC, from?
You know, it's interesting. I really was not brought up Jewish, but I always wanted to be with Jewish people. Always. So I didn't date anybody from Anacostia. It was when I went to the Jewish Community Center. But don't forget, I lived in Southeast. They lived in Northwest.
So how did you get together? They wouldn't come out to
Take
get
a
you.
bus.
So you would have to meet them somewhere?
No,
Because
they would take a bus.
they would
Some
come
of
and
them-
pick you up?
Some of them had a car. You know, the guy that owns Marlowe Furniture,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember what his name was.
Last name was Glick.
Glick, that's right, Glick. Went out with him, he had a car, and he really wanted to make out, and I didn't. And he left me there. I called my father. Daddy, come pick me up.
What a jerk.
And my father always did. Then one night, I met a group of people, and I thought they were interesting. They were reading poetry together, and I was interested in writing. And after I was there for a while, I realized they were really nerds, and I didn't like them. I called my father. My dad was right there.
Howard to the rescue.
He was.
So this Glick guy, this was a one date only? Or
I'm trying to remember what his first name was. Mel?
didn't you also go out with the Charles E. Smith son?
I did. He was nice. I also went out with somebody by the name of Mermelstein. They had a house on Connecticut Avenue. It was like a block long. Was it Connecticut? Yeah, Connecticut. So I think about it when I passed that house. But you know, I was really like on the other side of the tracks. These people lived in Northwest, and a lot of them, I did date this guy, Jerry Golan. And my mother said something like he wasn't good looking. And I said, but he was such a nice guy. And I remember, he was tall and very
Did you make
thin.
out with him?
Did I what?
Did you make out with him?
Never made out with anybody.
Nobody?
Never.
You didn't want to?
Yeah, but my mother was in my head. I would never.
So who was the first person you made out with?
Your father.
You're kidding me. I mean, just a kiss. He was your first
a
kiss? Yeah, that's...
I kissed others.
Okay.
But you mean made out?
Well, I don't know what our definitions are here of making
Well,
out.
making out is having sex.
No. Making out is like,
Fooling around?
fooling around. No sex. Everything but sex.
I don't really remember. Probably Dad. I wasn't interested, Mark. You got to remember.
You had hormones.
Yeah, I wanted a career. And
Well, they're not mutually exclusive.
Mark, if I settled with somebody, that would have ended my career.
We weren't talking about settling. You're talking about when you're a young kid with hormones.
Maybe mine were sick hormones.
They were dormant. You had to wake them up. So, so most of the boys that you obviously dated, they were in Northwest.
Yeah.
So that also took you a long time when you were working, because that was in Northwest too, right?
Yeah, 7th Street.
So you were, were there no companies to work for in Anacostia?
You know, Mark, I think it was Dottie Leventhal, I'm sure it was, that got me the job at New York Jewelers.
Okay, and you had met her.
I met her at the Jewish Community Center.
Okay.
And she really pursued me as a friend and got me the job. And when I would have a date, I would spend the weekend with her so that the guys, because they didn't all have cars, so they would meet me at the Leventhal house.
Do you have fond memories of high school? That not necessarily high school itself, but that age period,
Yeah.
What were some of the highlights? Do you have any highlight memories of when you were a teenager?
Well, I didn't do a lot of things. I mean, I worked after school. I was 15 years old when I started to work.
Did you enjoy working?
Yeah, I like making money.
Was New York Jewelers a good place?
One thing I remember that I hated, they would buy a watch for like $10 and charge the people $75. They were black people. That bothered me a lot. I do remember that. And so I said, I don't want to do that. So I worked upstairs in, what department was that? I mean, I could, these people, like some of the men would buy something for their girlfriends or their wives, and they put down $10. The company already made their money,
Mm-hmm.
but then they would charge them, and then if they didn't pay, they had to pay extra. So that was not a good thing for Mom.
Didn't you say there was the son used to chase you around, wanted to make out with you?
That was at the newspaper.
No, I thought at New York Jewelers.
There was a nerd. I don't know if he wanted to make out. He was just Jerry Lilienthal, who owned Hunter's Inn.
Oh, okay.
He was a nerd, short little fat nerd.
And you were tall.
Yeah, I was 5'7".
When did you sprout up?
10 years old. When I was 10 years old, I had my menstrual period, and I was 5'7". I was the tallest girl in the room. I had to stand in the back of the room.
You know, there's a movie called Tall Girl. You should watch it. Probably relate to it. All right, well, we'll have to pick this up again and find another subject to talk to delve into, go down memory lane.
So what did you do? You recorded this?
Yeah.